It's very strange. He seems to be on the wrong side of the audience here, who is listening to Trump.
Carney has become the laughingstock of Canada once again. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we got Donald Trump uninviting him to his peace coalition. We got more clips from the WF. We got some other stuff here. Let's jump into this. It seems very likely Mark Carney is going to call an election within the next 4 or 5 months, 6 months maybe. We've got a bunch of things here. This one, Winnipeg mayor makes plans for American refugees fleeing ICE. That's right. So scary, the ICE, they're coming to get the Americans. Gotta flee to Canada. These are leftist Americans who are absolutely crazy. Mainstream media is going to pick this up, run with it, and try to scare liberals, once again, voting for Mark Carney. We've got Tony posting this, which I thought was pretty well said. It says, Canada, our closest ally, just walked straight into a trap. The so-called strategic partnership announced by Prime Minister Mark Carney's Beijing trip is a perfect case study of how the CCP manufactures dependence and then calls it cooperation. Just so you know, China has previously pushed Canada with crushing tariffs. All of a sudden, China magnanimously offers relief on a temporary conditional basis in exchange for access, concessions, and silence. There's no alarms going off from the mainstream media that China had 100% tariffs on Canada. No, it's only Donald Trump that's evil. And so yeah, this is a trap. We're getting in bed with China now because of Mark Carney, and this is exactly what he wants because he's already in bed with China. He got a $250 million loan from China for Brookfield Asset Management, not to mention all the companies that Brookfield's involved in China. So with that, we've got Brian Lilly posting this. The Carney Liberals are in campaign mode. This is a text that just went out from their list. They're promoting his Davos speech and harvesting emails. Watch Mark Carney's speech and add your name if you agree. We also got this one, Liberal Campaign College. This is getting pushed out. Our next national virtual campaign college is coming up on January 24th. Gearing up for an election. Mark Carney came out with a speech here. This speech, we're not going to watch the whole thing because it's actually quite painful to watch. It's mostly about 70% in French and then 30% in English, and it's all interspersed in between. It's annoying to watch, but to sum it up, he used the word inclusivity 12 times. It seems he's very scared about losing NDP voters, and he's very patriotic here. He's going to paint Donald Trump as the big bad wolf, and he's the Canadian savior, and try to pull back his NDP support.
What makes Canada a great country? It's a great country for everyone. It's the greatest country in the world to be a regular person.
Except this guy invests in America, 91%. Put your money where your mouth is. He sure didn't.
You don't have to be born rich or to a landed family here. You don't have to be a certain color or worship a certain God. Canadians believe in the value of every other Canadian. Their boundless potential to make this great country even better. Our ancestors, despite their differences, believed in each other and in us. There are long periods of history where these values can prosper unchallenged. Ours is not one of them. Our values must be fought for.
Here he is. He's painting the narrative, scare Canadians, the evil Donald Trump, even though Xi Jinping had 100% tariffs on Canada. Forget about that. The evil Donald Trump. This guy can't even be bothered to put a Canadian flag pin on. It's always the order of Canada. Even giving his speech here.
That's what we are doing. That's what Canadians want. Canadians are up for it. Our history traces an arc of broadening inclusion from biculturalism to multiculturalism, from being British subjects to becoming Canadian citizens, from being two founding peoples to being many peoples living in true partnership with Indigenous peoples.
He's really pushing hard here on NDP talking values because he's scared. He's losing those people. He can't get a majority without them. Let's jump ahead in his speech here.
When we're Canadian, inclusive, fair, ambitious, Canada grows. Canada and the United States have built a remarkable partnership in the economy, in security, and in rich cultural exchange. But Canada doesn't live because of the United States. Canada thrives because we are Canadian.
That doesn't make any sense. That's like saying a polar bear thrives because it's a polar bear. That means literally nothing. And this is in direct response to what Donald Trump said.
Canada gets a lot of freebies from us, by the way. They should be grateful also, but they're not. I watched your prime minister yesterday. He wasn't so grateful. But they should be grateful to us. Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements.
But Canada doesn't live because of the United States. Canada thrives because we are Canadian.
This is such a dumb statement. It's backed by nothing. That's nothing to clap over. There's nothing there.
Nous sommes maîtres chez nous. C'est notre pays. We choose to build a bright future worthy of the ground on which we stand. We choose Canada. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
He had another cheeky little smile right there. You can see it. He doesn't believe the crap coming out of his mouth. If he really wanted to build our country, he would have been doing it the past year. He's not doing it. This is all grift. He wants the majority to rip us off and get rich. And with that, we've got breaking news as I'm filming this here. Donald Trump has come out with a post here saying, "Dear Prime Minister Carney, please let this letter serve to represent that the Board of Peace is withdrawing its invitation to you regarding Canada's joining. That will be the most prestigious board of leaders ever assembled at any time. Thank you for the attention on this matter, Donald J. Trump." He just uninvited him to the Board of Peace. This is humiliating to our country. Like, Mark Carney is such a complete loser, destroying our image. It's not Donald Trump that's destroying Canada. It's the Liberal Party of Canada. It's Justin Trudeau, and it's now Mark Carney with the nail in the coffin. Sure, we can be upset with Donald Trump's tariffs, and it's not good for business, but it's the Liberals that have got us to this position. And if we had someone in power right now that cared about Canada, they would be making a deal with Donald Trump because, once again, whether we like it or not, Canada exports by country 77%. So yeah, we wouldn't exist without America. We wouldn't. We would all be in poverty. Like, let's just get honest about the reality here and get a deal with Donald Trump. But of course, Carney's not going to do that because all he cares about is enriching his carried interest from Brookfield Global Transition Fund 1.
Please welcome Donald J. Trump.
The U.S. President's newly minted Board of Peace, unveiled at the World Economic Forum in Davos.
Congratulations, President Trump. The Board of Peace is now an official international organization.
Invitation only, thank you very much. Critics already likening it to a members-only club.
Is this Mark Carney's chair? This is so embarrassing. He got uninvited. We're right next to America. Like, Mark Carney's a complete laughingstock of Canada. You've got Milei of Argentina. You've got all sorts of world leaders in Canada not invited anymore.
Club, a permanent seat at the table available for a cool $1 billion. And a chairman for life, and you guessed it, Donald Trump.
Because once this board is completely formed, we can do pretty much whatever we want to do. And we'll do it in conjunction with the United Nations, you know?
Maybe. It was a UN resolution that endorsed Trump's board as part of a specific peace plan for Gaza.
Let's focus on the positive stories.
Heralded as a great success by Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, in Davos, unveiling shiny plans for the future.
Little suspicious here. Jared Kushner, he was involved in all the dealings when he was a part of Trump's administration in the Middle East. You got Carney in the Middle East. Mark Carney knows Jared Kushner. I still don't know what to think about this. I mean, so we've got Carney and Jared Kushner here at this event. I still don't know if Donald Trump and Mark Carney are working together. If they are, then they're really putting on a big show. It seems Donald Trump is legitimately pissed off that Mark Carney called him out in that speech. This is probably a separate tie here, but it's hard to know.
Many Western countries invited to join Trump's board have so far shied away.
We do also have concerns about President Putin being part of something which is talking about peace.
Those kinds of contradictions, along with Trump's apparent willingness to use or threaten force against other countries, clearly has many governments uneasy.
You notice right here, too, it says Trump rescinds Carney's invitation to the Board of Peace on the bottom. And of course, what else are we seeing today? Brandt posting this clip. Today, I learned that CBC has a senior international climate correspondent. Yeah, I didn't know that either. I didn't know they had a junior one or any other correspondent.
Yesterday, Mark.
That was the U.S. President Donald Trump tearing into renewable energy and the countries that use it. In his speech today at the World Economic Forum, he said only, quote, stupid people buy windmills from China, denouncing the shift from carbon-based energy sources to wind and solar power. So
let's listen to that segment first, and then we'll jump back to CBC.
There are windmills all over the place, and they are losers. One thing is that the more windmills a country has, the more money that country loses and the worse that country is doing. China makes almost all of the windmills, and yet I haven't been able to find any wind farms in China. Did you ever think of that? It's a good way of looking at it. They're smart. China's very smart. They make them.
So technically, China has the largest wind farm on Earth, called the Gansu Wind Farm, as we see here. Estimated cost $17.5 billion. Project is being built by 20 developers. They began construction on this in 2009, and what Trump's saying in here and attacking wind farms, he's not wrong. They're bad for the environment. They're very costly. They take a ton of material material, a ton of concrete. They're not this eco-green utopia. As this one even says here, as of 2015, Gansu, I believe they just keep adding on to this project. It says in 2015, they're far from full capacity. The wind farm is producing less than half of its full potential. The two main reasons why this is happening at the Gansu is located far from the main Chinese cities, where there's a lack of demand for wind energy in China. It needs to be put in cables. The longer they send it, the more energy they lose. The lack of infrastructure, transmission lines. Electricity is not the easiest energy source to move around. Oil and gas is much easier. Wind is not going to be the energy source of the future. It just will not be.
They sell them for a fortune. They sell them to the stupid people that buy them, but they don't use them themselves. They put up a couple of big wind farms, but they don't use them. They just put them up to show people what they could look like. They don't spin. They don't do anything. They use a thing called coal mostly. But China goes with the coal. They go with oil and gas. They're starting to look at nuclear.
So he goes on to talk about nuclear and how it's a good idea. Trump was against it initially. Now he's for it because the technology's come forward. It's safer. And that's where we should be going as well. And that's why you see Trump doing that big deal with Brookfield on nuclear energy. And in contrast, what do we have in Canada?
Thanks to technological advancement, we can now harness vast amounts of energy from moving water, wind, the sun, and the Earth's heat. So for today, let's talk about the fastest growing area of renewable energy.
Today, let's talk about what your stock holdings are, Tim Hodgson. Oh, that's right. We're not allowed to see that, so we don't know if you're in a direct conflict of interest. What a load of crap. Our government needs serious reform. If anyone wants to be in public office, they should have to disclose every single thing they have, and that's at the point of running. And if they win, then they have to sell all that. And it can go through a blind trust. It can be sold without capital gains tax, reinvested without their knowledge. We could even have a system where then after they depart office, it could be then sold again without capital gains tax and then reinvested back into what it was before they were in office. But either way, this is ridiculous that our energy minister keeps pushing wind and solar and nuclear, all this stuff. He's good buddies with Mark Carney, and we don't know what his investments are.
For more on this, we know that in fact Trump went even farther, calling it the new green scam and perhaps the greatest hoax in history. A lot of words to digest here. And we've got CBC's senior international climate correspondent Susan Ormiston, who you may have seen on Morning Live this morning, listening into Trump's speech. So take off your hosting hat, put on the senior international climate correspondent hat. You know, we heard a lot from Donald Trump where he said that we're into the world of nuclear energy. Energy has reached catastrophic low levels, blaming leftists. So many remarks here. I mean, what did you make of that aspect specifically?
Well, in this environment, it came kind of out of left field. I mean, this is a European audience on geopolitics, on this fracture with Greenland. And all of a sudden, we're hearing well-trod ground for Donald Trump on hacking away at climate policy, on Biden era climate initiatives, on consumer initiatives for EVs domestically. You know, he's talking to his home audience there, continuing to slag wind farms off the coast of the eastern United States. Here's a bit more of what.
I mean, those wind farms have been a complete disaster. So, I mean, he's not wrong there. They're not a good investment. They're an ecological disaster, especially by the ocean. If or when these things break, you have fiberglass everywhere. It destroys the beaches. It's bad for marine life. It takes a ton of concrete. These are not green. These are not eco, but they do financially benefit those invested on the bottom level of them.
Is not new. The Green New Deal was part of his electioneering in 2024. Again, trying to take a wrecking ball to climate policies. He has an audience for them. It's his home audience, his MAGA audience. And he is trying to diminish climate initiatives in the United States, pulling out of the Paris Accord and now most recently the IPCC, which governs the science around climate from the UN.
The problem with those is that intelligent grifters have then weaponized those initiatives, saving the planet, and used it as a way to make money. Nobody wants a dirty environment, but you've got grifters taking advantage of it and then pushing things that don't make sense. They're not backed in science. They're not logical. Why isn't Canada selling our oil and gas? Instead, we're trying to push to renewables when we don't even make them, making us more dependent on China. Same thing with the EU. Well, obviously somebody's trying to push this business over to China. It might be the Canadian Prime Minister who just went to China and signed a deal with Xi Jinping.
But interestingly, he's also taken a close look at these wind farms off the eastern coast of the United States, one of whom is owned by, guess what, a Danish company, Ørsted. It was 80% built. They shut it down before the turn of the year. Ørsted took the administration to court and last week won. So it's back up trying to finish that project, but Trump will not let this go.
Stupid people buy them.
Again, for many people in this audience, that seems like Trump is on the wrong side of renewable energy. I mean, this is Europe, which has led on renewable energy, and even as conventional.
Europe has among the most expensive electricity prices out of all the G7. Look at Germany. They abandoned all their nuclear power and now they have the most expensive energy. Why would we do this? You got people invested in this stuff like Mark Carney pushing this stuff, trying to make money off of it. He doesn't care about our country. He doesn't care that Canadians can't feed themselves right now. And then we've got a bunch of bonehead liberals keep voting for them instead of thinking for themselves what's going on in our country. Why are things so bad? Now we are stuck between a rock and a hard place with these renewables that Mark Carney's trying to force on us, and then America now having Venezuelan oil. We do have time though if Mark Carney acts right now. Unfortunately, the oil situation's not helping. Rory Johnston here, who's got this commodity website, also a former bank economist, saying the vast majority of Canadian crude is consumed in the Midwest, not in the U.S. Gulf Coast, where Venezuelan oil would compete if it were allowed to flow again. Canadian crude accounts for 100% of imported crude in the Midwest mountain regions because there's literally no other pipelines in. This is good news for Canada. It gives a little bit of protection for Alberta and Saskatchewan's oil. But I mean, really, if America wanted to do it, they'd find another way. Put it on ships and go around, build a pipeline to pipe it up there, whatever it may be. Let's take a little gander here at oil around the world. We've got proven oil reserves around the world. Canada's got 170 billion barrels of oil reserves. Venezuela's sitting at 302. There's a lot of oil down there. We've got Saudi Arabia 266, Kuwait with 101, Iraq with 148, Iran 157. So America's only at 35. That's why they're looking for other sources of oil. They sell a lot of oil, and the more oil they can bring in, refine, and sell it, they make a lot of money. We should be building a pipeline immediately to get our stuff over to Tidewater, get us less dependent on the Americans, and not be focusing on solar panels.
Energy prices have spiked, worrying consumers, rightly so. We're still seeing huge gains there, 20% rise in solar power in Europe. We're expecting that we may see that solar and wind now have eclipsed oil and gas and coal as energy sources in Europe overall. So it.
Oh, please. Now, she's not wrong with that statement. You can see fossil fuels 29% in Europe, where solar and wind 30% in 2025. So it's 1% more. But what we really need to care about is this: electricity prices for households world map. If we mouse over in Canada, you can see this is in USD, but 12.3 cents per kilowatt hour. It's about 17 cents per kilowatt hour. But just going off the USD, 12 cents for Canada. We've got 19 cents in America. We've got 7.5 cents in Russia, 7.5 cents in China. But look at Europe here, 44 cents in Germany, 27 cents in France, 40 cents in England, 44 cents in Ireland, 27 cents in the Netherlands, 28 cents in Spain. Europe has the most expensive electricity on the planet. You got Australia with 26 cents. And as I mentioned, Germany, they have the highest, nearly 45 cents per kilowatt hour, because they got rid of their nuclear power and put in windmills and solar panels. These people can't be trusted. They're pushing a grift. They're not doing what's best for the people. They're not properly educating people. This is dangerous what they're doing.
It's very strange. He seems to be on the wrong side of the audience here, who is listening to Trump. It was a very unusual turn in his speech.
Perhaps very peculiar to have those comments, as you're saying there, to this particular audience. There was also a Q&A session in which we heard Donald Trump talk more about this. But
what they're doing here is not honest. And I don't support everything Trump's put out, but he's right on the wind and the solar. I mean, it works great in certain areas. If you live in a really sunny place, you put it on the roof of your house, like that works great. But to base an entire economy on that, so in the case of Canada, why would we do that? When we have oil and gas, it's not that hard to get it out of the ground. We have technology to pull it out of the ground. It makes us a ton of money. This is not rocket science, but unfortunately the liberals are spreading this propaganda on mainstream media.
The world is going to be short power. And to power these data companies, you cannot have just this intermittent power like wind and solar. You need dispatchable power because you can't turn off and on these data centers.